The first official economic report of 2025 presents a stark picture for Nagaland, where a cost of living crisis is driven by an inflation rate nearly double that of the country. This surge is particularly acute for essential food items, creating significant financial pressure for households across the state. The state's Directorate of Economics and Statistics has released its first quarterly report using a new updated method, and the numbers are stark. We break down the data district by district to show you where the pinch is being felt the most. In the first quarter of 2025, from January to March, the average consumer price index, or CPI, for Nagaland stood at 8.89%. Now, compare that to the national average for the same period, which was a far lower 3.74%. This means price rise in Nagaland is, on average, more than twice as high as the rest of the country. The situation is even more critical when it comes to the food on your plate. Nagaland's consumer food price index hit a worrying 10.38% again, more than double the all India food inflation average of 4.14%. This gap highlights a significant regional disparity in economic conditions. Digging deeper into the state's data, we see that the inflation burden is not being shared equally. The report breaks down the figures into rural and urban sectors. Rural areas are facing the sharpest end of this spike. General inflation here is at 8.91%, but food inflation is in the double digits at a staggering 11.31%. This is particularly alarming, as rural households typically spend a larger portion of their income on food. Urban centers, while also experiencing high inflation, are seeing slightly lower rates. General inflation is at 8.68% and food inflation is 10.05%. Still critically high, but a small relief compared to the rural figures. The monthly trend shows a steady climb. Prices in rural areas saw consistent increases of over 0.5% each month. Urban areas saw a smaller rise in January, but a significant jump of 0.68% in February to March, indicating an accelerating trend as the quarter ended. For the first time ever, the Economics and Statistics Directorate has provided a district-level breakdown, giving us the clearest picture yet of where inflation is hitting hardest. Starting with urban areas, the district of Chumukedima has recorded the highest inflation in the state. The CPI here is 10.73%, but the food inflation is an astonishing 13.98%, the highest urban food inflation figure anywhere in Nagaland. In contrast, the state capital Kohima registered the most moderate urban inflation in the state, with a CPI of 6.45% and a CFPI of 8.55%, a significant difference within the same state. In the rural sector, the district of Nagaland saw the highest general inflation at 11.51%. However, for food prices, Shamator Rural led the way with food inflation at 13.96%. The lowest rural inflation was recorded in Mokokchung at 5.96%, while Pek had the lowest rural food inflation at 8.10%. When combining both rural and urban data, Nagaland district has the highest overall cost of living increase at 10.41%. But for the highest overall food inflation, Chumukedima remains at the top at 13.14%. The most affordable districts for overall costs and food are Kohima and Pek, with rates of 5.87% and 8.82% respectively. What does this data mean for the people of Nagaland? These percentages translate directly to higher prices for essentials like groceries, fuel, and housing. For families, especially those with fixed incomes, this kind of inflation can force difficult choices between food, healthcare, and education. It's important to note that this report is the first from the state using a revised base year of 2022 and an updated weighting diagram. This means it's a more modern and accurate reflection of what people are actually buying today, making the data more reliable than previous reports. While inflation is a global and national phenomenon, the stark difference between Nagaland and the national average suggests state-specific factors are at play. This could include supply chain disruptions, local agricultural yields, transportation costs, and regional demand patterns. The question now is what policy responses this data will trigger from the state government. The detailed data provided in this Directorate of Economics and Statistics report offers a valuable starting point for addressing the issue of high inflation in Nagaland. By understanding the nuances of price increases across different sectors and districts, policymakers can develop evidence-based strategies to alleviate the burden on the state's residents and foster sustainable economic growth.